Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Donna Larson, the Alumni Panhellenics Chairman, and we're excited to have you with us tonight. And along with you are members of the Houston Alumni Panhellenic Association, the winner of the Harriet Mach Outstanding Panhellenic Award. This group has been gracious to join us tonight and share ideas and best practices that have led to a very successful program for their members and in their community. I would like to introduce our panel, Yvonne Delgado, and she is the current president, Suzanne Stiles, who is the immediate past president, Mary Adamczyk, foundation president, and Jane Tomsala, who is in charge of community service. To get started, Yvonne, as the current association president, would you please review the Houston Alumni Panhellenic mission statement so everyone has a little background on the Houston Alumni Panhellenic?
It would be my honor. Good evening, everyone. The HAPA mission statement, adopted March 2nd, 2005. The Houston Alumni Panhellenic Association, affectionately known as HAPA, exists to provide charitable, educational, and social opportunities for Houston area alumni and collegiate members of the 26 National Panhellenic Conference sororities and fraternities. HAPA's specific activities include educating prospective members on the positive aspects of Greek life, promoting the community involvement of our members through the Reading is Fundamental literacy program, and providing various programs to facilitate the ongoing fellowship and education of our members.
Thank you, Yvonne. And as we proceed, if you have questions, we would ask that you put those in the Q&A technology button on the bottom of the screen, and we'll be monitoring that to make sure that the questions get addressed. And now let's hear from our panel. So the first question, and I'm going to direct this one to Suzanne. COVID made the organization difficult for all of our NPC groups. Suzanne, as president during this time, how did you adapt to the COVID-19 pandemic? Where did you find success in pivoting your operations?
Good evening, everyone. So let me just start by saying, as you know, we're in Texas. So that made things a little different for us because Texas has pretty much remained open. So I will say the first thing is we found a great partner in our location that was willing to work with us to actually host meetings, which I cannot say enough good things about this wonderful church that was, letting us meet there. Obviously, they had some rules and regulations. One of them being no food, which I keep saying I'm going to go down in history as the president that killed food at HAPA, because that was a big part of what we like to do while we were together was enjoy food. But so our great partner in our location that was willing to host us was one amazing thing. The other thing was, I would say, the partners I had on the board. We had a board that was really willing to kind of stick with me. We had a lot of people that were in agreement with me that it was important that we meet. So Yvonne just read the HAPA mission statement, and I kind of kept going back to that as I was trying to figure out what to do when we were starting the year. And I just kept going back to that part she read where it said, ongoing fellowship. And that kept resonating with me as important that we have ongoing fellowship. And so we just did what we could for that. We had, people that wanted to be in person. We had people that felt more comfortable being online. And we just figured out a way to do our board meetings and our general meetings both ways. And I'll be honest, it wasn't easy. But like I said, I had great partners because I had this great location that was willing for us to come in and meet and have this huge room where we could all spread out, and we were in masks, and everybody felt safe being there. We didn't have food. We really just kind of came in, sat down, and did our business. But we also had this live stream available that people could get on the live stream. And then same thing with our board meetings. We did do them in homes. I would say probably 3/4 of the people came, but again, we just spread out and we didn't take off our masks, and we had a Zoom option for those people that wanted to Zoom. And, you know, everybody felt comfortable, and it really did work out. And everybody just continued to say how grateful they were that we did still have the fellowship that was so important for our group. So I will say the other thing is we were kind of blessed with a younger member that was technologically savvy. So she was kind of a godsend this last year. I'm fairly technologically savvy. The Zoom part I got, but I will say the live streaming and all of that, it was great because she really handled that for me. Like I said, I had all these great partners on the board that were willing to jump in and do this with me. And let me start by saying also the other piece is I did a lot of research over the summer when we were trying to decide what to do. And what I came up with was it seemed like all the groups that had mandatory attendance, say the Junior League of Houston or National Charity League that my girls are involved in with me, and some of these other groups that had mandatory attendance where you were taking role and you would actually be, you know, kicked out if you didn't make a certain number of meetings. Those were the groups that seemed to be going completely online. Whereas our group, obviously our goal is not to kick anybody out. We would love for people to attend, but we do take roll. But because we had both options, you know, people were able to get online as well as be in person. And we weren't penalizing anyone for not being there. So hopefully that makes sense. We were flexible, and, you know, if a group wasn't represented, they just weren't represented, but there was no punishment for that. So I didn't feel like we were going to do any harm in offering both those options. So
It sounds like you wore a mask. Did you have any other safety precautions that you did? Any?
yeah, we were definitely spread out. We were in their chapel, and so it was huge. So we usually have about 40 people there, and I mean the chapel can seat hundreds. So we, you know, where we lay out, we have these little, you know, signs that have each sorority that we kind of put on chairs, and we kind of made sure that those were, you know, spaced out really more than 6 feet. And I mean, we kind of took up the entire chapel. So we had this huge room. We were all wearing masks, and we really were never all gathered together very closely. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. So moving on, just a communication question, Suzanne. One of the great initiatives that your Alumni Panhellenic has worked on is communication in your website. How did you create and decide what are important communication tools and make them effective for member engagement?
And I'll say Mary and Yvonne jump in and Jane, if I jump in, if I forget anything, of course. So we use our website a lot, and we have a fantastic person in our group that does our website, and she makes sure that everything is up there, every form, every announcement. There's so much history in our website. So if you get a chance to go to our website, Houston-Panhellenic.org, right? I just said that right, didn't I? Yes, Houston-Panhellenic.org. If you get a chance to go, we have so many pictures on our website. Truly anything and everything you need is on our website. We've got all of our recruitment information guides, which are amazing. I would say first and foremost, our website is really a huge communication tool for us. That said, we do a monthly newsletter, which is also fantastic, full of information, very timely information about what's going on in our group, but also in our Panhellenic group, but also what's going on in all of our, you know, members groups. So it'll have flyers in there and for all of the activities that our different sororities are doing. We're really great about supporting each other's events. So we use the newsletter. We email that out to all of our board, all of our delegates, our alternates, our presidents, and then we kind of have a special list of other people who just kind of would like to have that information. So yes, website, newsletter. Then we use Instagram. That's been kind of a new thing for us. And if any of you know, I mean, I have 3 daughters. Instagram is kind of where it's at. So that's been a great new addition for us, especially when we're trying to reach the younger high schoolers, when we're trying to get them information. Instagram is where you want to be. And then I think
Facebook,
yes, Facebook,
Twitter.
I say, are we using? I know we've got them. I know we're using them. I would say we're probably using our website and our newsletter and our Instagram the most, but we do have Facebook and we do have Twitter. So.
Very good. Have you found any particular creative way to make posts that, you know, really are eye-catching, that seem to draw people and get them to respond? Because that's always a trick, you know, with so much coming at everybody every day between, you know, Facebook and, you know,
Yes.
I guess Instagram for the younger folks, and certainly, you know, just email, you know, getting people to say, this is something that I want to make sure I take advantage of and and read that post. So any tips there along the way that you found were beneficial?
So I will tell you, again, back to that godsend of a younger member that, you know, came to us last year. Mallory Moore is her name. She's fantastic. She's a tri-adult. And she really was the one who kind of took Instagram and ran with it. And I'll say even this year with what Yvonne is doing, which is she's taken it one step further. And I know we use Canva, which allows you the ability to kind of create those cute little posts. You know, if you're not using Canva, it's kind of the easiest and best way to make it an eye-catching and really professional looking post. And then, like I said, Yvonne's taken it one step further this year and created a whole, you know, not daily by any means, but it's definitely, I would say, weekly list of all the posts. So she kind of took the entire calendar for the year, and even including all of the different sororities, founders days, and all of our events, and really all of our groups events and everything, and put it on a calendar and made that for our PR person so she could, you know, have an organized way to keep track of everything she was going to post, which, like I said, that's a step further than we even did. Last year, it was kind of fly by the seat of our pants of just, hey, let's post that. So Yvonne's doing great so far.
Excellent.
I'm a little more social media heavy than I think everybody else is. So yeah, to give Mallory the ability to just take Canva and run with it. And it's not just posts like that. Like, for instance, we had the last tropical storm that came through, just did a little quick, you know, care for you, don't drown, turn around type of thing, making sure that they know that it's not just all business with us, that we really do care. We want to make sure that everybody's safe and we get to see them again. So it's just the little things.
Nice. Very nice. Okay, I'm going to move on. Jane, if you can maybe take this next one on programming. You have many successful programs. What do you feel?
Programming.
Oh, you're not? Okay, who would want to take that one?
Any one of us.
Suzanne or Mary? And what do you view as your strengths in programming? And how did these change during COVID restrictions, or did they?
You know what? I'll say we did have speakers come in person, which was amazing. And they were so grateful to have the opportunity to speak in front of a live audience because they hadn't been doing that. I know we had the director of HEB come, and he said we were the first group he'd spoken to in person in a year. So he was thrilled to speak to us in person. We had some great speakers last year, and you know, it really is just a matter of kind of thinking outside the box. Our programming person last year, I mean, some of them, even when we read it, it was like, are we going to be okay? This is kind of a weird topic. We had the Funeral History Museum, which is a museum in Houston, which everyone went, okay, do we really want to know about the funeral history? It was fascinating. It was so fascinating that we decided to do a field trip. And I will say we were all a little leery about the funeral museum, but really fascinating. And then like the Lone Star Flight Museum is another museum here. And we had somebody come speak to us. And then again, we decided to do a field trip because we have this amazing museum that most of us had never been to. Again, you know, Houston's the 4th largest city in the US. So we have, you know, bonus there that we've got so many great things that, and I think some of us fail to explore our own city. You know, we go to another city and we're really good about exploring, but I think we sometimes forget to explore our own city. So that'd be my suggestion, is make sure you're thinking about those things in your city that you've always thought, I wish we had, you know, had done that. And we had, so I said the HEB guy, which HEB is a grocery store for those of you that aren't in the area, which again, he kind of took us on a virtual store tour. And I will say I had not been a huge HEB shopper before then, and he kind of transformed my whole view of HEB, and I've become a huge HEB shopper since. And then the Lone Star Flight Museum, Funeral History Museum. We had University of Houston Music Department. I'll say that's been, University of Houston has been a great source of speakers for us. We have a member who's very involved there, and she can get us a speaker on just about anything. And they are always just the most engaging, grateful speakers. So we've had lots of different speakers that have come from University of Houston. Y'all jump in. And what else am I forgetting?
Yeah, we did flower arranging.
With the dermatologist.
Oh yeah, dermatologist, which was great.
Flower arranging.
Yeah.
We just had like the Diaper Foundation, which is a nonprofit that collects donations and or diapers for all ages, actually. And she did this very inspirational speech for us. And I think we all just kind of just opened our wallets and said, here you go, just take my money, go get those diapers. But it speaks to just who we are. And it's beyond a programming for whatever reason, then, you know, engages us to do these field trips. And we have more field trips. You know, we've gone to Galveston and done museums in Galveston, and we end up going to lunch afterwards and we hang out, and we become even more friendly than just, you know, 23 groups in a room, you know, doing whatever we were doing in the room at that moment in time for business wise. But, you know, just, it's been fun. It makes it fun. That's really the most important part. It makes it fun.
That's very cool. Lots of wonderful opportunities. Certainly interesting museum. I've never heard of a funeral museum, I have to tell you. So that's a new one on me. So Mary, this one is for you. So related to scholarship and philanthropy, you've given thousands of dollars in scholarships. An amazing accomplishment that you folks have done. Great job. What are some ways that you were able to raise money during COVID for scholarships? Was there anything different that you had to deviate? And how did you organize that in a virtual environment? Because certainly it sounds like you had in person, but you also had a virtual group of people that you had to work with as well that weren't comfortable to be in person. So
yeah. The foundation was founded in 1987, and so I don't know how unique we are, but we are the fundraising arm of HAPA and a 501c3. So we have that advantage that anyone who donates to us, it's a tax deduction, and we have 13 trustees on our foundation. And we also had hybrid meetings. We had virtual face-to-face meetings and virtual meetings. We did them via Zoom, and we were definitely impacted by COVID. Our annual scholarship celebration and luncheon in 2020 was actually canceled because, of course, that was a real emergence of COVID. So that was canceled. The one benefit that came out of that was that we had so many people had reservations in advance. We gave them the opportunity to either get a refund, or they could just let us keep their money and count it as a donation. So by and large, the majority of people said, no, just keep my reservation money and put it toward this scholarship or whatever scholarship. So that was one thing. Our other large fundraiser is our wine tasting, and that would be our fall 2021 wine tasting. And the venue we normally used for that was not allowing any in-person events. So we went to a non-event event. We called it Sip for Scholarships. And it was basically the expenses where we sent out a flyer to everyone and said, okay, we're going to Sip for Scholarships virtually. If you would have come to the wine tasting, please donate, the cost of your ticket. And we made over $12,000 that way to fund our scholarships. And the other thing I think that has made a really big difference in our fundraising is we have tried to make it very easy for people to donate to us. Of course, we'll take your check anytime, but we also we'll take your credit card. We have created a link via our Square account where we put it on our flyers. It's emailed. You click on the link, you can donate. We also use direct bank-to-bank transactions through Zelle. So we have many, many ways that, if someone wants to donate, they can. And we've been blessed with generous partners with the sororities and HAPA. We have, for the most part, from year to year, at least 14 groups that will donate and fund a scholarship. And our minimum scholarship is $2,000. We've also gone out and asked for grants from local foundations, and we've been able to have 2 or 3 of those per year. And then amazingly, last year we had the family of a beloved member write us a check for $20,000 and said, I want to give a scholarship in my mother's name and $2,000 over 10 years. And so that has just been amazing. We've also had other situations where we've had a HAPA member pass away and their group will fundraise and have a memorial scholarship in their name. So we try to do some very innovative things to promote the foundation and the scholarships. 15 years ago, HAPA had a sorority sampler scholarship. And so last year we had, the sorority sampler scholarship to celebrate 15 years since the cookbook had been published. And so we were able to give that kind of scholarship. And this year, the foundation will be 35 years old. And so we are thinking about having some sort of HAPA or Foundation Past President Scholarship, where we contact all the past presidents and ask them to donate and, promote a scholarship. So we have honor cards at 3 times a year at our meetings. And they're flyer, they're Valentine's Day, minimum $5. You pick up as many flyers as you want, you donate that 10 times $5, $50, and you send those instead of Valentine's. We have them at Christmas time. For the winter time, we have a children's edition and an adult edition. And then at our VIP, our very important HAPA meeting in April, where we invite all of the important people from all the sororities, whether they're sorority president or if they have national officers or chairman or NPC delegates. We have honor cards for them, so the delegates can honor their VIP. And of course, we graciously take any donation. So, but we do try to have a multitude of ways where people can donate, and we're always grateful for any amount that anyone can give.
Oh, I love the honor cards. That's what a nice way to,
It-
you know,
It's
for
just,
five
it's an eight and a
dollars.
half, it's an
Right,
8.5 by 11
right.
paper. It may have a poem on it about Valentine's Day. It's, you know, it's very an inexpensive fundraiser, but you can,
But
you know, honor your sister on a birthday, or a half a friend, or honor the incoming president. I mean, there's just all sorts of ways you can do that. And, you know, I mean, people my age, I don't need any more stuff, you know. I mean, I have plenty of things. So
right,
getting
right.
something like that in the mail that someone says, well, thank you, you know, you've done a great job. That probably means more to a lot of people than, you know, getting a little, you know, a little gift somewhere.
Thank
So
you.
that's about
Yeah,
it.
that was a great summary, and I think the takeaway is obviously this is a very established
Mhm.
scholarship foundation program that you have, and um, definitely our associations, we have all ends of the spectrum, some that are just starting, trying to start a scholarship. But I think the just some of the different ideas, just little things
Mhm.
can build your fund. And so it's just being creative and being consistent. So thank you, Mary, for sharing all that. So I want to just touch on, because you have a lot of community engagement. And Jane, I think that might be your area. Is that
That's,
right?
yes.
If you would just talk to us a little bit about how you continued your presence with some community service types of things during COVID, that would be helpful to
Well,
know.
in 2020, in March, I went to read at Spring Branch Elementary School, a K through 5 local school. And little did we know Texas would be shut down within a few weeks. Uh, one of the classes I read to was a kindergarten class with a substitute, and only half of the children were there that day. But our volunteers, which are members, they either volunteer ahead of time or they're solicited by their delegates. Anyone want to do this? Anyone want to be on this committee? Because there's a community service committee. And one of the main things is to go in and sponsor the Reading is Fundamental program. So we provide funds to purchase books for all of the school, all the kids in the school. So last year we gave out 470 books at the elementary school. We were not allowed in the school last year. And the librarian and I just assumed that we would get in. We've always gotten in, we'll get in. And 4 or 5 weeks before the week of Reading is Fundamental, we weren't allowed in. It would change every week. First, we were told we needed background checks. That still wasn't going to get us in. We could do Zoom, but no, we had to have a background check to do a Zoom reading. So finally, we got the idea, we're going to record on Zoom. That way, no background checks, we could get it all done and do it during the week we had planned. Then Storm Uri hit and Texas was frozen and everything closed down. So the librarian wanted the films. She had the books, but she wanted the films of all of us reading so that we were promoting reading to these children. And so she stayed after school and for 2 weeks, and she would contact people by the email and tell them their Zoom link. They would come on. I hand delivered books to all of the readers. And then afterwards, I collected all of the books. But she got films of all of the volunteers reading from their home. And then all of the teachers were allowed to use that. Some of the other things, they mentioned that we have provided funds for the butterfly garden. We have provided the coupons that are for education that come on some of the foods, but that's now all online. Before the pandemic hit, we were bringing food every month to our meeting because the church we met at that time had a food bank. So Reading is Fundamental is a big program, but we also do other things.
Fantastic, very informative. Thank you. So I'm going to touch on here. You have annual roundtable discussions with other Houston alumni Panhellenics, and you've built successful partnerships. Can you talk a little bit about the planning and what goes into that and what that all includes? I don't know who's the best person to take that one. Susanna?
Yeah,
Suzanne?
I can
Okay.
start, and I know Yvonne and Mary can definitely weigh in. So it's it's a recruitment, no, it's a research and education. Excuse me. It's kind of our R&E event, is what we call it, and really it has become this event where we invite. Again, we're in Houston, so we've got a lot of surrounding Panhellenics, and then we've just got a lot of kind of interested parties that are part of our area and our community, that join together, and we all just have a chance to kind of talk about the issues. And as y'all know, there's been a lot of issues in Greek life in the recent years, and this year we obviously had a lot to talk about because most of our groups are all going through the same changes and challenges with legacies and just a lot of changes to the way that we all operate. So it has just been really informative, I think, to bring all of our different groups together across our city to not only talk about challenges within our own sororities, but also just within our Panhellenics. I think everybody is seeing the decrease of the number of people that are actually joining their sorority alumni clubs. So that, part of that we discussed that obviously kind of goes a little bit hand in hand with some of people's feelings about the changes that are going on with sororities. The way our Panhellenic, we makes money, to run our operation is we have dues. And so it's a, set amount plus $1 per member. So say you have, 300 members in your alumni group, then, you're giving us $1 for each one of those members. So it's a large amount. And as we see those numbers decline, obviously we have to plan for our future budgets that are, our amounts are going to decline as well. So we had a lot of discussion around that because we are seeing that kind of across all of the Panhellenics in our area, a decrease in sorority membership. And then just discussing, we talked a lot about just issues in the news that happen in Greek life, and not so much with what the fraternities are doing, but we really try to stay more focused on what sororities are facing and changes that are going on. But it has really proven to be a special time for us to all get together and just kind of talk about how we're all feeling about it. So we were able to do that event in person. We were outside, spread out. We have a member that has the most beautiful home inside and out. And so we were actually in her driveway, which if you saw her house, it would make much more sense. She has the most beautiful driveway you've ever seen. And we were able to spread out, but we were also able to host it on Zoom. So it was great. Our speaker was actually in
Florida. She was in Florida.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Yeah. Florida. So that was, there's been some bonuses to this whole, virtual and in-person thing, is you can grab a speaker from Florida who can actually be on Zoom and address everybody. And so that was kind of actually a nice little bonus. Yvonne, Mary, what else do you have to weigh in on that?
I would just say in years past, we've always invited there's about 5 or 7 suburban area Panhellenics. We've always invited the president and their recruitment chairman. And we've been lucky in some years that our NPC advisor was local in Houston. We've also been able to call upon NPC delegates that live in Houston. And at this one that was outside on the driveway, there's a woman that Suzanne knows, who's a friend of hers that works at the University of Texas as a parent advocate advisor about Greek life. I think it's not just sororities. And so we were very lucky to have her plus the NPC person from Florida. So it always generate, and we like to have it kind of after the NPC meeting, because sometimes, they can come back. If we have an NPC person there, they can talk to us about what was, what happened years ago when RFM came out. We had somebody come out and explain it to all of us who didn't know anything about it. And so it's really good to keep up with the trends that are going on in recruitment.
Absolutely.
So that's how it's kind of evolved in that kind of sense.
Yvonne, anything you want to add?
No, I think that's pretty much the same thing. We'll talk about our main event that we usually do every year, which is recruitment roundtable for the high school seniors who are going to become college freshmen. But yeah, we get to talk with the other area Panhellenics about sharing ideas on how we can all help the high school seniors in our own counties, because Houston is so big. Our Houston metro area actually is 7 counties. So, and we have like nearly 6.5–7 million people. So each county almost has their own Panhellenic. So that's a lot of high schools. I don't even know how many high schools we have in Harris County, but it's a lot. So we try to share with each other ways that we can help those high school seniors, encourage them to join a sorority when they get to college and everything that a sorority entails. And we share that and go back and forth and, try to work with the current situation and how things are rapidly evolving and changing. But it's so nice to be able to meet these other women from these other area Panhellenics and know that we're not going through the same issues by ourselves, that we're working together and each one has their own different challenges and we can help each other with those challenges.
Yeah, I'm sure you learn a lot. Everybody learns so much from each other. So do you want to go ahead, since you touched on it, just expand on the high school senior recruitment that you were talking about?
I'm going to let Suzanne talk about this one because last
Okay.
year was for her, it was dual. She had a high school senior and she has this high school senior. So for her, it was a labor of love to really get that done in person safely. And I think she did it masterfully. So I'm going to let her touch on recruitment roundtable.
Thanks, Yvonne. Yes, she's right. So I had a high school senior last year who is now a very happy freshman in college. And then I have a senior again this year, as she said. So then I have a sophomore in high school, all girls. So she's right. This is a labor of love for me because I just think, the sorority experience was really probably the best part of my college experience. So I'm so passionate about these girls understanding what sorority life is and why I just believe that it's not just for your 4 years in college, that your membership is for a lifetime. So, we have always done this event in person, and it's always been a very large event, which again, trying to plan really large events in pandemics is very complicated and difficult. I go back to, again, we're in Texas, so it was probably a little bit easier, but it was still difficult. So we had to find a new location because our typical location was not having anyone from the outside. So again, back to this wonderful partner that was allowing us to meet there, and we talked to them and we really said, we're going to need to kind of rent your entire church. And we kind of worked with them to figure out how we were going to do all of this and have all of these mothers and daughters, and they feel safe and we feel safe. And I think it kind of even took a minute to, I don't want to say convince them, but we all had to kind of get on the same page about how we were going to do that. So this has usually just been an event where mothers and daughters just show up. And we've, for many years, we had 2 sessions, and then we had moved to just 1 session. And the way it usually worked was everybody would show up, we would all go in one room, and we're talking hundreds of people. We would go into one room and we would have kind of a general session where we would give just an overview of sorority life. And we would have a panel of typically new graduates, or if we could grab people from currently in college, that's a bonus. But we would have a panel and they would kind of discuss just all the things, you know, what you wear and, you know, how it goes and, you know, just coming from their point of view, not, you know, my old lady point of view. So that was going to be a challenge because obviously trying to get that many people into a room together was not going to be probably the best option. Let me just say, obviously we were all wearing masks. That was a non-negotiable. So what we decided to do was take that initial piece where we all go together, and I decided to record it, which we now lovingly call that the fireside chat with Suzanne. And I'm pretty sure it's still on our Instagram and on our website. If any of you are dying to go watch, I think it's 17 minutes of me. But it took that entire kind of talk that we normally did in that group setting, and it just kind of condensed it down into one, you know, just portion that people could watch before they came. So the other piece, I said, usually people just signed up, I mean, just arrived at this. This year we had them register. So that was a new piece for us. We've always had mothers and daughters after that event kind of register with us to tell us who they were and where their daughter was going to school so that we could kind of track that. But this was new. And I will say it was a little confusing for people in the beginning because they did have to actually sign up that they were coming, and they had to choose where they were going to school, which this was in February. And those of us that have high school seniors, it's very stressful to decide where you're going to say you're going to school in February. But we kind of had to know because we had to spend a lot of time placing people in rooms. So what we wanted to avoid was the mass gatherings when they were coming in. So we wanted them to be able to come in and directly know what room to go to before they ever got there. So it took a lot of time and a lot of effort to match all these people up. And as you can imagine, we had girls emailing saying, I've changed where I'm going to go and what room I want to be in. And we kind of had room capacities. And then what, you know, if the room held 30, we could only have 15 in there. We were, you know, making sure every room was at half capacity. And, but I will say they all watched the video beforehand, which I feel like a lot of them did because I did have a lot of comments about it. And then they came in person, and in their specific room, they were kind of supposed to have an expert on their school. So for example, I was, you know, my daughter and I were in a room with, it was Texas Tech, and at this moment, I can't even remember what the other school was. I want to say Baylor and SMU. But anyway, we tried to kind of either group them by if they were both second semester recruitment, or if they were certain parts of the country, or, you know, here are the big schools in Texas, or University of Texas and Texas A&M University. And so they both had their own rooms because you have a lot of people going to those schools. And we tried to have girls that actually either attended that school and were new graduates or were actually still in college that were speaking in the room. So they could actually speak to specific questions. So if this is sounding daunting, it is a little bit of a challenge. And like I said, in a pandemic, I mean, you had a lot of these kids who really, the bonus is a lot of them were at home doing virtual school. So we actually had more college kids available than we normally do because they were here in Houston. But some of them, obviously, their college did not want them coming to speak to a group of people. So anyway, it all worked out. And I will say it's something, you know, back to our mission statement. I mean, what we do is we do fellowship and we do education, and education about the Greek system, about recruitment. That's what we're here for. That's, you know, our main mission is to educate these girls. We want the future generation, right, all being a part of the Greek system so we can make it stronger. So we were going to get that event done, and we did it. So I will say we're super, super proud that we got that event done. We're always proud of that event because it's always amazing. But this past year, it really was a labor of love, and it was our entire group coming together to make that happen. So
Well, it sounds like if anybody wants to get the content, they can go to your website and get the 17-minute version. So
website, like I said, I think it's on our Instagram. And then also the other piece is we do a recruitment information guide, and that for sure is on our website. And so that was the other takeaway, is that anyone can go to our website and download that. And it has truly every bit of information you would ever need to know about going through recruitment. So we felt like all those pieces made it a whole.
great. So thanks for giving us some resources that some other associations can maybe look into. So appreciate that. So one of the things that I just always find really important in sorority experience is just recognition of our members. There's so many people out there that just do so many good things, some very, very small, some huge things, but also very, very important. And I love the fact that you have a VIP member recognition. So I would like one of you to just talk about that and, what are the benefits of it? Like, how many people do you typically recognize? Where do you recognize them? Because I just think this is a really important takeaway, when you've got a lot of people stretched so many ways with different demands, that recognition goes a long way. So.
Yvonne, you take it.
Yes. Okay. So that's just one of the ways that we honor some of our members, and we have different categories. We have citation awards that we give out every 5 years. A group of and someone helped me remember this, honorary board members or past presidents get together and have candidates that they look at for past service to HAPA and the foundation, and award them with a citation award every year. We have honorary board members and honorary board members emeritae, whom are women who have been, in some cases, in 2 cases, as we've just learned, been with the association for 50 years, and are basically an honorary board member and panel, advisory member to the panel. They're invaluable to us as presidents. They just know everything. I just call them the High Council because that's exactly who they are. Our VIP meeting in April is usually where we invite the sororities to bring their citation members, their past HAPA presidents, past foundation presidents, their alumni presidents, anyone that they believe is a VIP to them and to HAPA at the same time. And that's where they get to talk a little bit about them for a few minutes and introduce them to everyone else. And last year, again, once the vaccine started to roll out, we got a lot more women in the room for that VIP meeting. And I think we had so many former foundation and association presidents in the room. It was really quite astounding, and it's so awesome to see. And again, celebrating the 90th anniversary 2 years ago, we got to see all these past presidents together. One of them who had was about to turn 100. I mean, it's amazing. It's just astounding. It's a great honor to be a part of this organization. It's a great honor to be president of this organization and to meet all these other fine ladies, and to know that, at an email's notice, at a phone call, text message, you can get some great advice and direction whenever you need it. And we honor them by honoring them, basically daily. And at every meeting, they're always ever present.
Wonderful. Well, what a wonderful end to my formal last question. So thank you so much for that, Yvonne. Jameson has a few questions that have come through in the Q&A, and so I'm gonna turn it over to her and have her ask a few of those, because a few things that you talked about, there was some follow-up items and questions that came from that. So.
Absolutely. Thanks, Donna. So there's a couple questions that came into the chat or the Q&A function. So if you put a question in there and it hasn't gotten answered, I promise we're going to get to it. So there's a question, and it says, please elaborate how you use Zoom or live streaming and in-person meetings. We seem to talk over one another, which is difficult for the online group. And can one of my HAPA sisters take it away?
Yes. So I will tell you, yes, that is challenging. But for the board meeting, we used Zoom. And like I said, we probably had more than half the board members, and our board has about 40 people or so on it. So we had probably more than half in the room. So that meant you own, and of course, not every person is going to make every meeting, right? So then you maybe would have somewhere between 8 and 10 people on Zoom. So really the people on Zoom weren't saying anything much until it came to their board report. I will tell you, it was exhausting on my part because I had to kind of man, you have to have the person like you are, Jameson, manning the Zoom, right? So it really, I kind of would sit in kind of a central location at the meeting, and I had my computer, and then most of the time, obviously they were staring at my face, but then we kind of had a central location where whoever was giving their board report would stand up, and I would kind of shift the computer, and then they could watch that person give the board report. And then it was kind of, if there was discussion going on in the room, I'm sure it was probably pretty tough for the people on Zoom to hear it, I'll be honest. But, and then if the person, on Zoom, it was time for their report, same thing. I kind of just turned the computer and faced it toward the room. And so those people could at least see the full room. And it seemed to work pretty well. I mean, it's not a perfect system, obviously, but it was better than nothing. And I can think of one of our honorary board members that, she lives in a, assisted living facility, and she was basically on lockdown, right? Well, at least it gave her the opportunity to join in that important fellowship piece I keep talking about. It gave her, and she's always our cute member that at the end of every meeting has like this funny joke. And, we can't end our meeting without the funny K joke. And so, I don't know, I just love the fact that it gave her and other people the opportunity to be a part of the meeting. Those of us that wanted to be in person could be together. Those of us that, that wanted to join in could, and it just worked. Honestly, I didn't feel like we had a lot of trouble talking over each other because most people were just listening to whoever was giving the board report. So, and then the live stream, I will say for the general meeting, the reason we went with live stream is obviously that is super complicated because we were in a big room and there was no way to keep turning the computer and making that happen. So we, have a podium obviously in the room where everybody gets up to give their report. So we just took that that camera that was attached to the computer and it was just directed straight on that podium. And that's live stream's not interactive. So the people that were watching the live stream can't really interact with, we had somebody watching it, but it's not like a Zoom where you're not really having a chat feature. I mean, it's really just a viewing capability. I mean, obviously if they had something they could text somebody and say, hey, we can't see or we can't hear or something, but that's why we chose live stream because we didn't really think we could make Zoom work. So, and live stream worked great. So, and it was kind of funny, actually, I think it was the Lone Star Flight Museum one that was, our program was so interesting. We actually had some husbands that wanted to watch the speaker, which was kind of funny. So they could.
Thank you, Stan. I have a couple of clarification quick questions in here as well. How many members are active members of the Houston Alumni Panhellenic in your association?
So like I just said, we have about 40 or so on the board. Then we have, in the last couple of years, we've had 24 of the 26 groups that were members. So each one of them had a delegate. I will say some of those delegates also served in a board position. So if you start counting though, I would say we have close to 80 or so that are actively coming to our meetings. Because we've also got past presidents that are attending. We've got the honorary board members. We've got, so it's just, if you kind of start adding it, it's probably somewhere in the 80 range. Now, not all 80 are coming at all times, but we did pretty much always have a representative from each group, either in the room or online. Not all board members are there every single time, but yeah, it's a pretty large group. And as if you can tell just from those of us on here, we're pretty close knit group. And we're very, very welcoming. And we haven't even touched on the fact that we have a whole big sister program. So when you're a new delegate, you get a big sister, and we kind of just bring you into the fold.
Yeah. Awesome. And this might be a question for Mary. The wine event raised $12,000.
Yes.
As clarification. Awesome. Thank you. There's another question as well about dues. Can you review that dues structure again for our audience participants?
So each group, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a long weekend. Each group pays $20 plus $1 per member. So I will take, I'm a Pi Beta Phi. So I will say our group in Houston, again, we're in Houston, don't forget that. There's like 2,500, eligible Pi Phi members in the Houston area. Okay. Huge, huge, huge number. Like 600 of those pay dues. So you've got $20 plus $600 that is coming into dues for us because it's $1 per member. So then we've also got groups at that 24 groups. We've got some groups that are just single members. It's just one person. So, and we have a different structure for them. If you're a single member group, we only have you pay $10. So it's been 2 or 3 groups though that were single member groups. So we're just paying $10 from them. But correct. All the other groups pay $20 plus $1 per member. And obviously not every group has 600 members. Right. Yvonne, how many does your group Alpha Zeta Delta have?
Yeah, we're small but mighty. We're only 30.
Right. So they're paying
900 in the area. So, and we're only 30. So yeah, but there's about 5,000 women in total over the 24 groups that are represented.
Right.
Wow.
Wonderful. Can you all talk a little bit about how many programs you typically offer in a year, and kind of like what the attendance looks like? Is it just geared towards your delegates and your alternate delegates, or is it more geared towards general membership? What does that look like?
So we have a program every meeting. So we typically have 6 general meetings throughout the year. So we'll have like one speaker come hopefully for each meeting. That's typically what our programming looks like. And then we have our foundation events, which are the luncheon and the wine tasting event as well throughout the year. So, it's typically at the general meetings. So it's the 23, 24 delegates, HAPA board members and the honorary board members, and anybody else is always invited to attend. So that when we send out our information for our general meetings, it typically goes to the delegates, the alternates, and the alumni presidents and the board members. So you're typically reaching about almost 100 women there, and then they're spreading it out to their alumni groups. So whomever wants to come can come. For instance, when Scott McClellan came last year from the president of HEB, the grocery store, we packed the house. I mean, everybody wanted to come, and there was a lot of women in the room who wanted to come and hear him speak.
I see somebody's asking how many program events. I'm not sure I know what that means. So we have 6 general meetings, and every general meeting has a speaker program. So I'm not sure if that answers that question.
Yeah. But
that's what you mean by programs. Then we have, how long are your meetings? I like that question. Oh, I would love to say an hour, but yeah, they're not.
Yeah, it depends.
It does depend.
We try.
I will say January. Okay, we've decided that January general meeting, oh my goodness, every single committee that we have meets before January. And so that January board meeting, oh my gosh, I want to say it went on for, I don't even want to say hours.
Long time.
And so yes, we gotta work on that because that was ridiculous. But
working on it.
Normally our general meetings with the speaker, we ask the speaker to speak for like 20 minutes. Sometimes they get a little long-winded and we get a little stressed. But we try to be in and out of there in an hour and a half. And that includes our door prize drawing that we do at the end of every meeting, which actually takes a little bit because we have all these people that buy door prize tickets for $1 each. And then we have groups that bring gifts. And so lots of people win. I mean, we give away probably 20 or 25 gifts at the end of every meeting. So it takes a while to call all those numbers.
Yep.
So that's why they're an hour and a half. So you could probably leave after an hour, but if you bought a door prize ticket, you're really sticking around to win your door prize. So
Correct.
So there's a couple of questions about like promotion and recruitment that I want to make sure we address. And we are a little bit over, but there's some really good questions. So I want to make sure we get to them. Stacy has asked how you advertise the recruitment roundtable. And then there's a follow-up question about recruitment of new members. And I want to see if we can squeeze those two in.
Okay, so remember I said Instagram is key because that's where the teenagers are. They're really on Snapchat, but I will say we are just not that fancy quite yet. Instagram is huge, and I will say it has been helpful. So my daughters actually happen to attend the high school that we have the #1 most Greek people in Houston coming out of. So that was helpful. And then the chair of that event does a great job of emailing our flyer that has information about that event to all of the high school counselors. And so just trying to get that information out in newsletters, anywhere we can get anybody to forward that information. Social media is the way to go, though. I will say Instagram was really the way to go this year. It just took off like wildfire because we've done the whole emailing the counselors thing for a while. And I would say, honestly, our numbers had kind of been diminishing at that event, which is why we've gone from two sessions to 1 session. And this last year we were back up to 2 sessions. Now, part of that was the pandemic and we were trying to spread people out, but the demand was definitely there. So I do think Instagram had a huge part in that. Wouldn't you agree, Yvonne?
Yeah, definitely. It's, and word of mouth. I mean, it's just, HAPA recruitment roundtable is a big thing. And if you are a young woman going to college and you want to join a sorority, you kind of know that you want to come because we give out a lot of information, try to provide as much detail as possible for the prospective new members. So yeah, word of mouth helps a lot. We have a reputation. And if you want to go into a sorority, you got to go to HAPA recruitment roundtable. It's a way of life at this point.
Absolutely. And there is one other question, but I do want to encourage folks to still put questions in the chat. And we will make sure to follow up with a questions and answer document from this evening. So if you are a paper person like me and want to read things out as well, we'll make sure that you all get this with a copy of the recording. So if you have a question that we haven't gotten to yet, please still type that in the chat. But there is a question from Colleen. How do you reach out to recruit new members? I know you mentioned going to high schools. Is there a master list you can work off to show which Greek organizations are in your area? So like recruiting, I think that Colleen is asking about recruiting of like members of your alumni Panhellenic, but also might be recruiting of young high school women. So if you could elaborate a bit on like what your kind of recruitment strategy looks like for members.
So we really don't, so as an association, we don't recruit new members. We have groups that join. So the Sorority Alumni Association joins HAPA, and then, they have a delegate, an alternate, alumni president. So we really don't recruit to the association in that manner. And we don't really recruit for high school kids either. So I don't understand the question in that sense. We don't, for recruitment roundtable, it's word of mouth, it's Instagram, it's reputation. And that's basically why the young women come to recruitment roundtable every year, to learn about the sororities and what the sororities are requiring and what the schools are requiring. Each Panhellenic at each different school is requiring. So we really don't recruit. It's kind of, we really don't recruit.
And I'll say maybe this is, I'm not sure if this is answering the question or not. So we, like Yvonne said, we have the groups join Panhellenic, and yes, the last several years we've had 24 of the 26. We actually just lost one, and that was just
Yeah.
point in life. You know, it was one of the one member groups where she was the only member, lives out of town, blah blah blah. But so 24 the last few years, and so we really put the onus on who's going to be a part of HAPA on those sororities. So I'm just going to like hold this. So I don't know if you can see this. Like we have these rotation schedules. I mean, they're very detailed, and they're like, that one's just for recruitment chairman rotation. And we've got a ways and means rotation, and there's a president rotation. And these are very, very detailed charts that we have in our yearbook. That was the other thing I will say. We have the most amazing like directory / yearbook. Like this was last year's, which was mine. This is Yvonne's this year. I actually like her cover better. But it has got the bylaws, it's got the standing rules, it's got all these rotation schedules, it's got everything you could possibly ever want to know about. It's got all our board meeting dates, all of our locations, everything. Everything is in this book. So that's actually, website and this, and like, you're good to go. But
Can I say something?
yes,
The individual member groups they select their delegate to HAPA. And that person, yes, there are certain positions on the board that rotate, but my position, community service, is open. So we don't actually vote, okay, who wants to run for this? It's more like you hand in your name, what position would you like to hold on the board? And there's a selection committee, and they try and match the people they feel are best suited for those particular board positions that are not in the rotation. Then in our directory, there are committees under all of these board offices. So there are probably 20 to 30 members, not necessarily delegates, but the delegates went back and said, who wants to be on this committee? You go to the school, you read to the kids, you help them pick out a book and put their name in it, and they get to take that home. So I have a list of 20 to 30 women who are willing to go into the school, and they're not necessarily delegates or officers. So as you promote that, you can possibly get some of the officers out of that grouping too, because they may say, well, I'd like to be an officer after working on a committee.
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And our officers are not, for the association, are not elected. We're on rotation. So it's based upon when your group joined HAPA, and then you'll go into a 4-year rotation to be president, and you start as treasurer, first vice president, president, and then eventually you become parliamentarian, and by de facto, you become the nominating chairman the following year. So that's by rotation. If you're part of the foundation does have elections for all of their trustees and their member and their president. So that's the difference between the two.
Awesome. That was super
Somebody-
helpful. Oh,
I saw somebody ask, is this a bound directory? And yes, it is. Like it is a bound, very large.
Yeah.
Directory. Yes.
Yeah, we do have a budget for that, and we exceed we sell ads for the yearbook.
Yes.
So
Okay, we sell ads. So you
yeah.
can see ads that we sell in here.
So that pays for
lots of
that book and
ads
more.
that pay for it.
Yeah. The book gets paid for with ads. We've got some really great advertisers that, put ads in just about everything we've got, from luncheon programs to, our recruitment guide. So we've been very fortunate with that. So that's what helps pay for that, and then some.
Yeah.
Well,
those are all wonderful questions. I know that we have had some coming in, but we are about 10 minutes over and do want to be respectful of folks' time. Thank you all for joining us this evening. I'm going to turn the official adieu over to Donna Larson, but thank you all for joining us, and we will make sure to get that FAQ out to you all.
and I will just echo Jameson. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, panel members. Excellent presentation, very informative, and I know there's every tidbit that you shared just triggers more questions that we can all learn from. So thank you for making all that information available, and your website, that people can look at that and get some takeaways from there. But we just really appreciate, because I think everyone on this call has something that they can carry forward to their association, and we can strengthen the programs that we're offering throughout the communities. So appreciate it very much, and everyone have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, y'all.